Hi, thanks so much for joining me today. My name is Jose, and this is Football Soccer, an American soccer talk show. Hit the jingle. I am a fan of all things American soccer. And for that reason, as you can imagine, a lot of my peers have not understood this passion of mine. And maybe what I needed was more of a support group, but this was the next best thing. So now I'm starting this talk show where we are going to talk about all things American soccer. When I was a kid, my dad got me an Alexi Lalas action figure. He was my favorite soccer player. I just loved his long hair and his aggression on the field. He was my favorite player. You can take that to the comments. And since then, I've been enduring what it means to be an American soccer fan. We've had, with the national team, incredible victories, but for the most part, some tough years. I remember 1998. That was an incredible World Cup where there was so much hope after the momentum of hosting the World Cup in 1994 and getting out of the group stage. We went to France and we had extramarital affairs. We had Iran wanting to destroy the United States on the field because of geopolitical reasons, and just a team that was not ready to play. And then we got an incredible run in 2002. Young Landon Donovan scoring against Mexico and starting the 2-0. But then they came and they crashed out in 2006. And like that, we've all had to endure all of these growing pains. But now, at least on the men's side, for the first time, there seems to be some light at the end of the tunnel. And it's so much easier, I can tell you, to be a U.S. soccer fan now than it was back then. Maybe not so much if you believe that everything on social media is toxic. Who knows? I'm hoping not to add to the toxicity, or maybe this is all blown out of proportion, but here I am to add my voice to the discourse. But we also had MLS, and we had to endure weird playoff formats. I mean, who's kidding who? We still have to endure weird playoff formats. We're back to best out of 3, or whatever it is we're doing this year. But we also had neutral sites for the MLS Cup final. We had Eastern Conference teams playing in Western Conference finals and vice versa. We've had halftime shows. We had Jimmy Eat World in 2007, whatever that is. And I remember those days. I remember the shootouts, all of it. And so, again, it's all this passion that I have for our league, which is our league, is my favorite league. Might not be the best league, but it's ours and I enjoy it. I'm here for the national team. I'm here for all of it. And so in here, we're going to be talking about all of that. And like I said, my friends, they don't care about what I have to say. So the next best thing was either a support group or this podcast. And now here I am. And now you have to deal with me talking about these topics. And I'm glad you're here to join me for it. And so here we go. We're going to start today by talking about, you guessed it, MLS, Lionel Messi, and what that means for the image, more importantly here, the image of having this star in the U.S. Now, I may be a little bit late to the conversation. Messi has been here for about a month, but he's already lifting trophies. And I use the word lifting lightly. You'll see what I mean in a second. So when you embark on any type of journey, let's say you're hiking Kilimanjaro, right? You're hiking this mountain, and people talk about journeys being more important than the destination. And I think that's true. But when you finally reach the destination, when you finally summit one of these mountains, that picture at the top of the mountain, that's the picture that you're uploading to your social media. That's the picture that you're going to post for, and it's going to be on your Instagram. And that's important in sports. So who can forget Tom Brady lifting the Lombardi trophy amidst the confetti coming down and draped as one of the most decorated football player. Who can forget that image of Michael Jordan putting his head on the NBA trophy? And who can forget having the past winner of the Augusta National, the Masters, putting on the green jacket on Tiger Woods after chasing the tournament on the last day, on that Sunday, in his famous red and black. And so we had that opportunity here. We talk about the Leagues Cup being scripted, right? Everybody wants to talk about Lionel Messi's run was scripted. And I don't agree with that. I take it as a compliment, actually, because, the things that you don't expect to happen, the things that shouldn't happen, are what's happening. Now, if I cut to the side a little bit here, you're not going to please anyone. We know it as MLS fans, right? Like, if Messi scores too much, people are going to say that the MLS defenders suck and that he's just here running around and everything is very easy. If he wasn't playing well and he was scoring nothing, then we would say, Messi just came here to retire. He doesn't care about the league. And if he was scoring every other game or every once in a while just playing average, we would say, well, the conditions aren't the right ones. It's the turf, or it's the heat, or the travel. So you're not going to please those people that hate MLS. So I don't care to try anymore. I'm here to just enjoy it. But back to my point about imagery. Messi recently played the World Cup final against France. He had never won the World Cup, and it was perhaps the last thing he needed to be decorated as the best soccer player in history. And so he plays this final against France, and he ends up winning that final in Qatar. And he is now going to be rewarded with lifting this trophy. Same thing Maradona did, same thing Pelé did. So he comes out there. But before he gets that trophy, some royal member of Qatar comes in and drapes him with a bisht, which is a royal garment used traditionally in Qatar. And they drape him with this royal garment. And knowing that a picture of Messi carrying the World Cup is an image that is going to be burnt in the eyes of every soccer fan that exists now and that will exist forever. And arguably the conversation of the best player in the world is going to include Messi lifting the World Cup with this garment. And that's what happened. They put on the garment, Messi goes out, lifts the trophy, and that's the picture. Now, I don't want to compare Leagues Cup, which is the trophy that Messi just won here in the United States, with the World Cup. Not at all. But there is value in the fact that Messi has made his way to the United States. He's been here for a month, and he's already lifting a trophy. But in the process, Messi decided to give his captain's armband to DeAndre Yedlin. DeAndre Yedlin is a USMNT player. I love the USMNT, like I told you a lot. And I love DeAndre Yedlin as much as the next guy. But with that armband, with that passing of the armband, now it's a situation where Messi is sharing this moment of lifting the trophy with DeAndre Yedlin, which in any other situation, I would have thought that is really cool. But DeAndre Yedlin, let's just not kid ourselves. DeAndre Yedlin, it's not a legend of Inter Miami. He's not a player that has been player for Inter Miami for the longest time. He got in last year. He is no Totti in Roma, right? He is a player that came in last year with an old coach and hasn't really had the team at the top of the standings or anything. They are dead last. Inter Miami is dead last. And now we have Messi coming in, we have Busquets coming in, we have Jordi Alba coming in, and other players that have made their way in. And now they're starting to win the trophies. And that image of Lionel Messi lifting the World Cup by himself would have been incredibly powerful. These images would have meant a lot to U.S. soccer as a whole, because that's the image that will be printed in the newspapers, in the stories online. It's going to be in Apple TV. It's going to be everywhere. It's what MLS needed. And we don't have that image. We don't have that image because Messi decided to share that moment. Now, maybe that's a moment of brilliance by Messi. I don't know. I would love for you to comment and tell me what you think. But I think it was a missed opportunity. Now, I understand that Messi lifting this trophy was more important perhaps for MLS and the league than it was for Messi himself. But at the end of the day, it was also Messi's trophy that was going to put him ahead of any other player in history with the most trophies. And him lifting that trophy was going to be an incredible image. And as a sidebar, as I'm talking about lifting trophies and ceremonies, can we stop with flags at these ceremonies? I don't care to see your flag when you're celebrating or when there's a trophy being lifted, and then that is just what is shown on the picture. Now, if you're playing for the national team, you want to bring your flag out, or if you're celebrating and you're running around the stadium, you want to pull the flag, but I don't want to see any of these flags in the middle of the ceremony. It just makes things confusing. It just makes things weird. No one cares what country you come from. It's not necessary. But again, I want to know what you think about Messi doing this. But not all is lost for the image here, because Messi, doing Messi things, has still not played a single MLS game. I mean, Inter Miami is still dead last in MLS. But there is something here. He did win the semifinal against Cincinnati. He went to Cincinnati. He won the semifinal. And now he's going to play US Open Cup final, which means another opportunity at a trophy. So when September comes and Messi does whatever he does best, which is win trophies, let's hope for the sake of American soccer, for the sake of the image, that we can have Messi front and center, grabbing the very relevant US Open Cup and lifting it up by himself with no flags and his team behind him celebrating that they've conquered US soccer. Speaking of trophies, the USMNT has a big opportunity ahead. We have big tournaments coming up. We have Copa America and the Olympics in the summer of 2024. And then we have the World Cup in the summer of 2026. Now, the interesting thing is that we're hosting the Copa America and the World Cup. Now, the meaning of hosting the World Cup means that we don't have to qualify for it. So we have a big opportunity. We're playing a World Cup. We're playing it on home soil. We're already qualified for it. And this is going to mean so many eyeballs. We need to build up on this momentum that Messi has brought into the MLS. We need to make sure that we don't waste this opportunity. We have to make sure that we take advantage of every eyeball that is going to be watching. We have to be able to inspire the new generation of players. There's so much that we gained from the World Cup in 1994. And this is a bigger opportunity because this team technically has a chance to compete. I'm not here telling you that they're going to win, but they're a competitive team. They're a young team with a lot of experience, and they can have a good run. And we need to make sure that that happens. But here's the thing. There's a positive in the sense that we've already been qualified, but there's also a negative. We don't have to play those qualifying matches. And with that comes less official games where there's something on the line. So now we're playing a lot of friendly games that matter because, we have to give meaning to those games, but don't matter in the sense that if you lose, nothing happens. And so in their infinite wisdom, USSF, the federation in the United States, decided that the best two teams to play for our new coach is Uzbekistan and Oman, who are ranked 74 and 73 in the FIFA rankings. By the way, we're ranked 11. So that's what our new/old coach that we hired is going to face. Berhalter 2.0, his new era, will start by playing these two teams. And here's the thing. We need to call our best team. We have to. Because we don't have a lot of these opportunities. This is a FIFA window, which means these players need to be released. So we need to call them up, at least so that they can sit with each other and build on the momentum of just being together. We have to take every advantage to have them together training, even if it means playing against inferior opposition. I don't like to undermine other countries and other countries' teams, but we need to make sure that they are here, and we need to make sure that we're taking all these games super seriously. And so, in my opinion, I think Berhalter is in a short leash because we have, as the only real test as to what's going to happen, is Copa America. We're going to have a tournament where all the teams from CONMEBOL are coming to the United States to play here, which means we're going to have Argentina, we're going to have Brazil, we're going to have Uruguay, we're going to have Colombia, and then we're going to have Mexico and Canada and us playing against this incredible opposition. And we need to make sure that we're ready for it, because this is really the dress rehearsal for the World Cup. If we are not prepared to play Copa America, that means we're not going to be prepared to play the World Cup, because there are no more important games. This is it. This is going to be the test that we're going to have to play a tournament with incredible opposition trying to test our players. And so it's important that we, in these call-ups, don't confuse the agenda. The agenda is to call the best players every single time so that they are ready to play together immediately when Copa America starts. Now, at the same time, I think it's important to start ushering in players that we think could break into the team, because we have injuries. We have players that dip in form, and we have to be ready. At the last World Cup, we were struggling trying to figure out who our center forward was going to be. And a big opportunity seemed to be knocking at Vasquez's door, the player that was scoring so many goals for Cincinnati at the MLS. And so Vasquez, who could have had a shot to go to the World Cup, couldn't go because he had never been given a chance to play before that. So we cannot let that happen. All those players need to be identified early, and they need to be put in the Olympic roster. The Olympic roster is unique in the sense that it's an under 23 players team, an under 23 team, with the exception of 3 players that can be over the age of 23. So this slot should be left for someone like Vasquez, right? We already know what Christian Roldan or Aaron Long are made of, what they're about. I'm not hating on them. They're good MLS players, but they don't need to be in that roster. We know what they're about. Let's make sure that that roster includes players that can break into the team so that they are also tested in a real tournament. They need to be tested in a real tournament so that we know what they're getting themselves into. We need to make sure that they're ushered into the program. We need to make sure that they know the system, that they have the expectation that Berhalter wants to set for the main team, so that if 2 weeks before the World Cup there's a big injury in one of our players, we already know who's in line to take over. We cannot be improvising last minute trying to figure out who needs to be ushered in on the last friendly we're going to play right before the World Cup. That's what the Olympics are for. And it's very important that we take advantage of this opportunity. Now, I think that this roster needs to be saved for players like Paxton Aronson, players like Kate Cowell, and even considering the fact that Mexico didn't qualify for the Olympics, we need to take advantage of calling players that are dual nationals, not so much to cap tie them, but so that they are part of our program, so that they know that they have a shot at going to the World Cup and that they have an opportunity, an avenue to prove themselves. That's the key here. But in the meantime, all the players that get called for these international windows, these FIFA windows, have to be the players that we are expected to play for Copa America. Now, there's a chance when we can we can include more players. These are FIFA windows. These are friendlies. We can call 50 players if we want. We can call 40 players. We can do whatever we want here. But if the last cycle is any indication of how Greg Berhalter operates, this new version of him, he never liked training with more than 26 players. So I don't anticipate having more than 26 players in any of these FIFA windows. And so if the idea is going to try to test players, the idea is going to bring players that will go to the Olympics, players that will play Copa America, and we're combining all this, it's going to create unnecessary problems that we don't need. We need to have clarity, and we need to make sure we're focused and we're all on the same page. Every single player that we are expecting right now to play for the World Cup needs to show up for these friendlies and the next ones, barring anybody with injuries. And it pains me to say that because Giovanni Reyna won't be able to have this rehashing moment with Greg Berhalter. I mean, it's clear that Reyna is somewhat back, but he's been dealing with all these injuries that I don't think it's a good idea to force him into playing time for the national team. But it is important that Greg Berhalter gets it right. It's important that he knows who he's calling. It's important that he knows who's in what camp. And we don't have an opportunity to continue improvising here. Improvising here is not a good idea. Let's identify the players. Let's put them in a place to succeed. Let's make sure everybody can be ushered in if they need to be. And let's not be on the last minute figuring out who can play center forward because they scored the last 10 goals on MLS. We don't need to be doing that. Let's evaluate and identify that talent early. That's the key. And here's the thing. Here's the hot take, right? Here's the hot take. And don't at me. The hot take is that I genuinely think we have enough depth that we can compete in all of these tournaments. At the Olympics, it's fair to say that during this summer where we're playing the Olympics and Copa America, the Euros are also going to be played. So I don't expect a lot of these European teams to send their best players trying to win a gold medal in the Olympics. And I think we have enough depth that we can beat anybody's under 23 team, or at least be up there and be competitive. And at the same time, with the Copa America, yes, Brazil and Argentina are ahead of the United States, but beyond that, we have a chance to win every single game and then compete against the top teams. And that's the test. That's the test. And if Berhalter flops that test, we're going to be in deep trouble. Now, this is the decision USSF made. I give them the benefit of the doubt. They think Berhalter is the right person. He had to take all these tests, whatever, fine. They rehired him. I'll bite. I want to see what he's all about. I want to see what this new era will look like. I want to see who he's calling. And I sure as hell hope that on this first window, we have our best players getting together to build up on what has to be the most important World Cup in our history yet. About the national team and MLS. The national team is the team that represents our country. And the league is our league. The cities that we live in, the cities that we grew up in, these are the cities represented in the league. And so for those reasons, it deserves our attention. And that's why I'm here. I'm not here to try to tell you how to think. I'm not here to tell you that you should think MLS is the end-all be-all for soccer. I'm simply here to talk about something that I care about. And I think you should care about it too if you like soccer and you think that there's room for growth and you would like it to grow in the United States. We need to pitch in some way to make sure that soccer continues to grow and there are more avenues to express our opinions in a healthy way. And so that's the idea here. I want the conversation to be healthy, to be invigorating. And you can't see it on this side, but I've got a beautiful couch. I also have the ability to communicate with people that are not in this city. And the idea is to incorporate these different ideas, to try to expand the discourse and the dialogue. I know there's other people doing this, and I think that's great. I'm just here to add my voice to the discourse. And at the end of the day, I hope you like, subscribe, leave a comment, dislike it if you must, and hopefully you join me every week as I release a new video and we continue to talk about all things American soccer. Thank you so much.